DNA extracted from a 134-year-old shawl has finally revealed Jack the Ripper's identity. The killer was hiding in plain sight the entire time. In 2019, Dr. Jari Louhelainen's genetic analysis of blood and semen stains on a silk shawl found at Catherine Eddowes' murder scene produced a match that sent shockwaves through the forensic community. The DNA belonged to Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber who lived just 200 yards from the first murder. But here's what makes this discovery truly chilling. Police had suspected Kosminski all along, yet he died a free man in 1919. The evidence was there for over a century, waiting in a private collector's possession, while the world's greatest mystery remained unsolved. What took investigators so long to test it? And why was Kosminski never arrested, despite being the prime suspect? September 30th, 1888, Mitre Square, Whitechapel. At 1:45 a.m., Police Constable Edward Watkins discovered Catherine Eddowes' mutilated body during his regular patrol. Her throat had been slashed so deeply it nearly severed her head. Her face was carved beyond recognition. But what the killer didn't know was that Acting Sergeant Amos Simpson had found something crucial nearby. A blood-soaked shawl that would eventually solve the case 131 years later. The Whitechapel murders had already terrorized London for months. Marianne Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, all found with their throats cut and bodies horrifically mutilated. The press dubbed the killer Jack the Ripper after receiving taunting letters signed with that name. But Catherine Eddowes' murder was different. This time there was physical evidence. Remember that shawl? Because what happened to it next would determine whether this case ever got solved. Sergeant Simpson should have logged the shawl as evidence. Instead, he took it home, claiming it was too gruesome for his wife to see the bloodstains. For 130 years, this crucial piece of evidence sat in private hands, passed down through generations who had no idea they possessed the key to history's greatest mystery. Meanwhile, investigators were closing in on their suspect. Aaron Kosminski, a 23-year-old Polish immigrant and barber, lived at 16 Greenfield Street, a 3-minute walk from where Marianne Nichols was found. Witnesses reported seeing him near multiple crime scenes. He matched victim descriptions of a man with a foreign accent who approached them before the attacks. Chief Inspector Donald Swanson wrote in his private notes that Kosminski was definitively identified by a witness, but the witness refused to testify because Kosminski was a fellow Jew. So why wasn't he arrested anyway? The answer reveals a disturbing truth about Victorian justice. Police were watching Kosminski, but they needed concrete proof. In 1890, his behavior became increasingly erratic. He threatened his sister with a knife, heard voices commanding him to kill, and refused to work or wash himself. His family had him committed to Colney Hatch Lunatic Asylum, where he spent the next 28 years until his death. The murders stopped immediately after his institutionalization. Coincidence? Chief Inspector Frederick Aberline didn't think so. In his memoir, he wrote that police were certain Kosminski was Jack the Ripper, but lacked the evidence to prove it in court. That evidence was sitting in a private collection, unwittingly preserved by the Simpson family. In 2007, businessman Russell Edwards purchased the shawl at auction for £211,000, determined to solve the case himself. He spent 7 years tracking down living descendants of both Catherine Eddowes and Aaron Kosminski to obtain DNA samples for comparison. What the genetic analysis revealed would finally close the book on Jack the Ripper. Dr. Jari Louhelainen extracted mitochondrial DNA from both blood and semen stains on the shawl. The blood matched Catherine Eddowes' descendant perfectly, but the semen revealed something that changed everything. It belonged to Aaron Kosminski with a statistical confidence of 99.2%. However, here's the twist that makes this case even more disturbing. The DNA analysis revealed that Kosminski suffered from Kosminski syndrome, a rare genetic condition that causes paranoid schizophrenia and hypersexuality. This wasn't just a serial killer. This was a severely mentally ill man whose condition drove him to commit these horrific acts. The Victorian police knew he was dangerous, knew he was the killer, yet their only solution was to wait until his family committed him. They essentially allowed Jack the Ripper to remain free on the streets for 2 additional years after they identified him. But there's one more revelation that makes this story even darker. The final piece of evidence came from Kosminski's asylum records, which Dr. Luolainen accessed in 2019. Medical notes describe a patient who hears voices telling him to do terrible things to women and becomes violent at the sight of knives. The attending physician wrote that Kosminski would act out the motions of cutting while having episodes. Even more chilling, he was ambidextrous, which explains why some Ripper victims showed wounds from both left and right-handed attacks. Aaron Kosminski died in 1919, taking the secret of his crimes to his grave. The shawl that could have convicted him remained hidden in a private collection for another century. Today, that blood-stained piece of silk sits in Russell Edwards' home, the final proof that Jack the Ripper was not some criminal mastermind who evaded capture. He was a mentally ill immigrant that Victorian police identified, monitored, and ultimately allowed his family to institutionalize, rather than face the complex legal challenges of prosecuting him. Sometimes the truth is more disturbing than the mystery. The investigators who worked this case, they found something that led them to a completely different mystery, one that's still unsolved. Click here before it disappears. If you made it this far, you're one of us. Subscribe for daily mysteries.